Hello, Phantom fans. My name is Sam Olmstead. His name is Justin Irwin. This is the Dump and Chase podcast. This week's show is brought to you by the fine staff at Advanced Podiatry. Go to advancedpodiatry.com for information on treatments, services provided, office locations, and appointment information. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week, either on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. So, Justin, the weekend wasn't so great, but we did have a good game last Tuesday. I think the players had a lot more energy than we did that night because our butts were dragging.
I don't know how they do it. 4 games, 5 days. I mean, we did pretty good on Tuesday and then got some rest, and I don't think we ever woke up.
No. All right, so right off the bat, let's get to some Phantoms news. Starting off with the Phantoms Phase 1, first overall pick from last summer, getting onto the roster this past weekend. That, of course, is William Whitelaw, his season with Shattuck St. Mary being finished up. So he'll be, as far as we know, he'll be with the team the remainder of the season, and with the injuries that have piled up, it's definitely a welcome sight.
Yeah, I mean, it's that time of season. Some teams are bringing in their affiliates because their season is over. Unfortunately, we're dressing ours because we have open roster spots. Injury-wise, we haven't been hit too badly, so hopefully we get through this by the playoffs.
And we're only a couple weeks away from the playoffs, and barring a total collapse in the next couple weeks, the Phantoms most likely would be looking at the number 4 seed. So right now, what we've mentioned before, what people especially like to say in hockey, the magic number right now for the Phantoms, that number is 5. And I know some people hate this concept, but for educational purposes, we're going to do a little bit of a if the playoffs started today scenario, just to kind of, people who are still kind of in the dark about how this is going to work with the playoff format this year. So right now, Chicago in first place, Dubuque in second, Muskegon third, Youngstown fourth, Madison fifth, Cedar Rapids tied with USA, but Cedar Rapids has the first tiebreaker, so they are sitting in 6th place. So if the playoffs started right now, Chicago and Dubuque would get first round byes. Muskegon would be hosting Cedar Rapids and Youngstown would be hosting Madison. These would both be a best of 3 series that pretty much starts right after the season ends. So we're talking that Saturday, possibly the next Monday or Tuesday when these games could start. So as far the number 3 versus the number 6 right now, Muskegon and Cedar Rapids, the winner of that game would play the 2 seed. The winner of that series would play the 2 seed Dubuque. The 4 and 5 Youngstown and Madison, the winner of that series, would go on to play Chicago. Now, right now, there's kind of this pile up at the bottom of the standings for the 5th and 6th spots. Right now, Madison in 5th with 58 points, Cedar Rapids in 6th with 57 points, Team USA in 7th with 57 points. Green Bay has already been eliminated. So kind of the way those final games are going to play out will definitely be interesting. Madison, right now, Madison's been a very streaky team this year, I think it's fair to say. Right now, they've only won 4 in their last 11 games. Their 4 games left are 2 with Cedar Rapids and 2 with Green Bay. So I guess the question right away will be, even though Green Bay's out of it, Madison's a big rivalry for them. Are they going to be up to the task of playing spoiler in that last weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've not been as bad as everybody thought they were going to be after, being the fire sale team at trade deadline. They've been a little bit more competitive. I think they are playing for a little bit of pride. So let's hope so.
Now, Cedar Rapids, they have 5 games remaining this season. They have an away game with Dubuque. They have a home and home with Madison, and then a home and home with Dubuque again to finish the season. Now, the reason I'm bringing up home and away is there's this very odd dynamic with Cedar Rapids this season. Right now, Cedar Rapids has the best home record in the Eastern Conference. They also have the worst road record in the Eastern Conference, hence why they're in 6th place right now. If they were playing on the road the way they played at home, they'd be blowing Chicago out of the water right now. So, I mean, can you ever remember anything like that? Like just a team's home and away split that is just that different?
I mean, I'm sure it happens. Not really right offhand, no. It's definitely telling, I guess, considering they're more than likely not going to get a playoff game at home with the current playoff structure. I mean, I think they're going to have to do a lot better than, they have been. So it does make for an interesting stat.
And then finally, it goes to the U17s. Their final 5 games of the season, 2 with Muskegon, 1 with Chicago, and 2 with us their next week. Yeah, the U17s have not beaten Muskegon yet this season. They've actually beat Chicago twice, and one of their wins came against us. But the way they've been playing, I mean, they did beat Madison last week, but that's only their second win in like their last, I want to say, 12 games or so. So there's a little bit of mixing between these 3 teams where they'll be playing each other. Right now, I would say Madison has the best path to kind of keep where they're at. But as far as Youngstown's magic number, these teams are kind of where that magic number is coming from. And any combination of points that Youngstown picks up plus whatever points these teams don't pick up is what gets Youngstown into the playoffs. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the next 2 weeks play out.
Honestly, I do not see either, Cedar Rapids or USA really doing much in the first round anyway. But yeah, as long as we can hold on to that number 4 spot, I think Madison stays where they're at, and that's provided we stay where we're at. And I guess that's where my focus is.
Yeah. All right. So coming up in this episode, we will recap. We'll go ahead and include the USA game since we weren't able to talk about it last week. We'll include it in with the 2 games this weekend. So we'll be recapping all 3 of those. We have an interview with Phantoms defenseman and assistant captain Bayard Hall. We also have 4 points plus the 3 stars of the week and our interview with Phantoms senior vice president Kelsey Moreton. So we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll take a look at this past weekend, and you'll hear our interview with Phantoms defenseman Bayard Hall. You're listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
And we're back. So we talked about last week, this game on Tuesday that we weren't going to be able to cover. So even though we're at the point that it's almost a week later since this game happened, we'll go ahead and recap that as well. So this was a game with the NTDP U17s. This was a 3-2 win for the Phantoms. So we'll jump through the box score real quick. The first period, Tiernan Shouty for the Phantoms kicked off the scoring at 5:11 of the first period, his 11th of the season from Chase Patilla and Trey Taylor. Giving Youngstown the 1-0 lead. At 13:44, the U17's Oliver Moore, his 9th of the season unassisted. That tied the game at 1, and that's how we would go to the second. So at the 4:39 mark, Quinn Kennedy, who we talked about last week, picking up his first USHL point on an assist, picked up his first USHL goal. That was from Steven Sardarian and Andrew Centrella, giving Youngstown a 2-1 lead. And then at the 8:24 mark, Youngstown's Justin Varner, his 11th of the season from Andrew Centrella and Nick Williams, giving Youngstown a 3-1 lead. And that's how we go to the third, where USA would get the only goal of the third period at the 15:26 mark. William Vogt, his 11th of the season from Peralt and Sachin, cutting Youngstown's lead down to 3-2, but Youngstown holds off, and that's how the game would end. Shots in the game, USA 28, Youngstown 24. Youngstown was 0 for 1 on the power play. USA was 0 for 3. USA's Carson Musser in goal stopped 21 of 24, and Jacob Fowler for the Phantoms stopped 26 of 28 in the win. And like we talked about, this was kind of a worry game after playing a 3-3, only getting 1 day off and having to come back. The Phantoms looked a lot more ready for this game than we did.
We do this in training camps and fall classics, but when you end up having to go to these late season games, I don't know if we've ever done 4 and 5 this late in the season. And it just kind of took a lot out of you. I could kind of even see it in the Covelli staff looked a little.
Well, that was the thing Brad talked about after the game, after the third game of that last weekend, about, the playoffs are going to be coming up. The guys are going to kind of need to get used to this kind of schedule. So yeah, at least if anything, it's 2 games a weekend, the last 2 weekends. If you remember, the schedule was absolutely brutal. The last time the Phantoms made the playoffs, got knocked out in that first round with Dubuque. If I remember correctly, the Phantoms played like 6 games in like 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
Leading up to the end of that season. So by the time they got into that first round playoff series with Dubuque, they were running on fumes.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of your success in that first round is how you manage that. And I guess get it out of the way. And I mean, our last 2 games are a home and home against the U17s.
Yeah.
So you can do a lot worse than that.
Yeah. All right, so going to the game this last Friday, the Phantoms traveled out to Iowa. Their first stop was in Cedar Rapids. This was a 5-3 loss for the Phantoms. There's going to be a lot of symmetry between both of these games in score and the way the score ended up that way. Yeah, so first period of the game on Friday was Cedar Rapids at 13:29. Cedar Rapids, Eric, oh Lord.
Polkamp.
I spelled it wrong. Yeah. That's why. Okay, Eric Polkamp. No, I did not write Polecat. All right, I'm just going to try that again. So at the 13:29 mark, Cedar Rapids' Eric Polkamp started off the scoring with a power play goal, his 7th of the season from Chen and Travis Shouty. I guess we have to bring this up with Cedar Rapids. Now, I knew that Tiernan and Travis were brothers. I did not know they were twins.
Yeah.
Just now learned that doing show notes for this, but there is another Shouty on Cedar Rapids roster, and it's Tiernan's twin brother.
I mean, it happens. I've seen it a few times in the league, and both of these are pretty good players. So
somebody may want to tell the Jackson boys from Dubuque that you can play on separate teams. Both played for Dubuque, both went to, I believe, Northwestern, and both have transferred to Arizona State.
But you need both of them to fit into the trench coat so they can get into movies.
Yeah, there you go. Standing on each other's shoulders.
Yeah.
All right. At the 15:52 mark on the power play, Youngstown Shane LaChance, his 11th of the season from Kyle Bettens and Garrett Wright, tying the game at 1. At the 18:46 mark, Cedar Rapids, Josh Carnish, his 6th of the season from Flameng and Ashawn.
Yeah, there's been a few of them in the league, so you get used to it.
Cedar Rapids is not known for releasing their line charts online or having pronunciation guides, so they do it to themselves. But that goal gave Cedar Rapids a 2-1 lead, and then with 4 seconds left in the period, Andy Moore, his 10th of the season from Carnish and Flameng, giving Cedar Rapids a 3-1 lead, and that's how we would go to the second period. At the 1:52 mark, Nick Williams for Youngstown, his 2nd of the season from Tiernan Shouty and Justin Varner, cutting Cedar Rapids' lead to 3-2. And then just 20 seconds later, Cedar Rapids' David Chen, his 7th of the season from Wisdom, gave
Zachariah Wisdom, yeah.
No, there's a kidney stone joke there somewhere. Had kidney stones, Wisdom both. Anyways, that gave Cedar Rapids a 4-2 lead. At that point, that was the end of the night for Kyle Chevette. He was pulled for Jacob Fowler. Then at the 14:54 mark, Youngstown's Kyle Bettens, his 16th of the season from Bayard Hall and Charlie Lurie, brought Youngstown back within 4-3. Then in the third period, at the 7:06 mark, Cedar Rapids' Brendan Fitzgerald, a power play goal, his 4th of the season from Brenner and Percival, giving Cedar Rapids a 5-3 lead, and that would be the final score. So shots in the game, Cedar Rapids 32, Youngstown 20. Youngstown was 1 for 3 on the power play. Cedar Rapids was 2 for 4. And it was pointed out to me by our good friend Matt Lipsack, this was the first game in 2022 that Youngstown gave up more than 1 power play goal in a game. Happened quite a lot at the beginning of the season, but since the calendar is flipped, this is the first time it happened. Cedar Rapids, Bruno Braveris in goal, stopped 17 of 20 in the win. Kyle Chevette stopped 9 of 13 in the loss, and Jacob Fowler stopped 18 of 19 in relief. So for the season, Kyle Chevette drops to 15-12-4-2 with a 3.32 goals against average and an .893 save percentage. So jumping along here to the game on Saturday with Dubuque, and a lot of this is going to sound the same as what I just said. The first period, the game with Dubuque on Saturday. At the 7:02 mark, Dubuque's Cole Helm, his first Cole Helm, his first of the season from O'Donnell and Burkholder, giving Dubuque a 1-0 lead. At the 15:26 mark, Youngstown's Braden Clark, his first goal in the USHL, congratulations there, from Kenta Isagai and Grant Porter, tying the game at 1. And then just more of these late first period goals. At 18:58, Dubuque's Cole Helm, his second of the season and second of the game from Feenstra and O'Donnell, giving Dubuque a 2-1 lead. And with 5 seconds left in the period, Stephen Halliday, his 33rd of the season from Ulvestad and Burnside, that would give Dubuque a 3-1 lead, and that's how we go to the second period. So at the 11:18 mark of the second, Dubuque's Tristan Lemaire, his 25th of the season from Dempsey and Connors, bumps Dubuque's lead up to 4-1. And then kind of a big goal as far as Youngstown Phantoms history is concerned. At 14:31, Charlie Lurie on the power play, his 15th of the season from Trey Taylor and Andrew Centrella. And with this assist that gave Trey Taylor 41 points, he now holds the Phantoms all-time single-season scoring record for a defenseman. So Trey, congratulations there. You know, if you got the applause button, you might as well use it. But yeah, so 41 points. He now officially holds the record. Once again, congratulations. That goal brought the Phantoms back within 1 goal, 4-3. So going into the third period, at the 19:39 mark, with Fowler pulled for the extra attacker, Dubuque's Max Montez hits the empty net from Lemaire, giving Dubuque a 5-3 lead, and that's how the game would end. Shots in the game, Dubuque 35, Youngstown 25. Youngstown was 1 for 4 on the power play. Dubuque was 0 for 4. Dubuque's Paxton Geisel stopped 22 of 25 in the win, and Jacob Fowler stopped 30 of 34 in the loss. So his record drops to 9-4-0-1 with a 2.21 goals against average and a 927 save percentage with 2 shutouts. So as far as the box score, almost matching identically from Friday to Saturday, the same score after the first period, same scenario in which those goals were scored. Not good all around.
No, I mean, I will say we've seen a lot worse. So, I mean, our bad weekends are getting to be not quite as bad. You'd like to see the guys have a little bit, better of a start in games again. But it's been a long week. Not to make excuses, but you pointed out Cedar Rapids' home record, and Dubuque's just a damn good team. Yeah. So all in all, not too disappointed. I'd like to have gotten more points, but hopefully at least we're not, going backwards. And I didn't notice anybody seriously injured. I know Jaden Grant took a shot to the face in one of the games, I think, but I think he played the next game, so...
All right, so mixing up the order, typically how we do things. Right now, we're going to go ahead and get into the player interview. And as we're counting down to the end of the regular season, who better to talk to than Phantoms blue liner and Yale commit Bayard Hall? So have a listen. Okay, so it's time for another Dump and Chase podcast player interview. I'm here with Phantoms defenseman and assistant captain Bayard Hall. So Bayard, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Always great to be on. Love talking about the Phantoms.
All right, so right away, what's your origin story? How did you get started in hockey?
So I started playing hockey pretty much as soon as I learned how to walk. I started playing when I was about 2 years old. I actually grew up playing at an outdoor rink, same rink my father grew up playing at. Played there for a couple years and then kind of got into the travel scene when I was around 7 or 8, I think, second year might. And then just from there kind of playing. I grew up in New Jersey, so playing up through a couple different programs in New Jersey. Went to prep school, played there for 2 years, and then I came out to Youngstown last year, and this is my second year in Youngstown, and now we're here.
Well, now you're coming down to your end of your second year with Youngstown. How would you compare your game to what it was when you first came to Youngstown last season to where it is now?
I mean, I think it's taken tremendous strides. I think a lot of people say that making the jump to the USHL is one of the hardest jumps in hockey. That besides maybe pro hockey. But, it's definitely a great league, and it tests you every night. It tests you mentally, physically, and, everything in between that. So, I think I've definitely made some strides, and, I still think there's a long way to go, but I'm definitely very happy with the way that I've been able to play and develop here. I think the coaches and the staff here have done a great job. So I'm really appreciative of that.
Now, a lot of the talk this season has been as far as the back end of the roster, especially with the offensive depth that there is in the Eastern Conference. How proud are you, as far as yourself and the rest of the D-Corps, with what you guys have accomplished so far this season?
I think we're super proud. I think, starting with our goaltenders, both them, Kyle Chauvet and Jacob Fowler, they've been huge for us this year. And then our D, we've got 8D. All 8D can go any night, can play any position. I think, not entirely sure about the stats, but I think that we're definitely one of the best defensive teams in the league in terms of our D-core. I think that we have one of the lowest goals against averages 5-on-5. So that's obviously something to be proud in. I think a lot of the guys take a lot of pride in defending as well as offense. So very happy with the way that our D-core has been playing this year, and I hope we continue to do that.
Now, you're committed to Yale University, and I asked Winter about this too because now he's committed to Cornell University. What have the conversations been like with the reality that you guys may be facing off against each other in the future?
I think it's going to be pretty fun. I heard that Cornell is a great barn to play at, so it'll be fun to travel up there. And the Whale down in New Haven is also a great rink atmosphere, so it'll be awesome to play there as well. And I think it'll definitely be fun to get a little rivalry going. I'll definitely have to make sure to throw him a chirp or two here, friendly of course, but let him know who's boss. So,
all right. Now we're coming down to the end of the season. The playoffs are around the corner. The Phantoms haven't seen the playoffs since April of 2019. I know you're focused on the rest of the season, but what's that anticipation level like, knowing that that's right around the corner?
Yeah, I think we're taking it game by game. I think you get to a point in the season where you're close to playoffs, and you kind of start treating every game like a playoff game because ultimately that's what it is. The East Division is very close. There's a lot of really good teams, so I think the only way to really get ready for playoffs is to just start playing playoff hockey and start doing the little things and sticking all the habits and kind of really implementing all of those things that we think are going to be helpful down the stretch in playoffs in our game immediately, and working on any kinks. I know our coaches have done a great job, and it's do or die every night, and you just want to play as hard as you can and put yourself in a great spot to do well down the road.
All right, so last question. Is there anything you'd like to say to the fans might be listening into this today?
I'd just like to say thank you to the fans. I've had a great time in Youngstown. This is my second year here. I got drafted to this organization way back when. I think I was, 14, 15 years old, and I've been here ever since. So it's been a long road to get here. I've been super proud to put on the jersey every year. And you guys are awesome at supporting us. Really appreciate all the support. Yeah, so keep going out to the games, guys. Really appreciate you. Hope everyone's doing well.
All right, and that was, we were talking to Phantoms defenseman Bayard Hall. Bayard, thank you so much, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, appreciate it. So our thanks to Bayard for taking a few minutes after the game a couple weeks ago. There will be a lot going on this weekend, but the goal will be to get a couple more interviews, and hopefully those will be a return of a couple of the fan favorites from this season. So it's time for another break. On the flip side, we'll break down these games in this week's edition of 4 Points. So stick around right here on Western Reserve Radio.
Advanced Podiatry has been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street in Howland Corners. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
And we're back. So welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So for listeners new and old, 4 Points is where we break down the previous weekend into 4 categories: what we liked, what we didn't like, favorite moment, and the 3 stars of the week. So I am going to go ahead and kick this off with what I liked. So basically, the Phantoms using the power play on Saturday to get back into the game. The power play has been kind of floundering as of late. Now, the Charlie Lurie goal was a power play goal. The Tiernan Shouty goal, he scored that probably, I want to say, a second or two after the power play they were on expired. Officially not a power play goal, but they were still in a 5-on-4 scenario on the ice. So about as close as you can get to a power play goal without it being one. These purposes, I'll count it. But getting the opportunities in the Saturday game and taking advantage of them, trying to get back into the game. Yeah, for me, I would say that was what I liked from this weekend.
Definitely we need the power play to start working here, going down the stretch. What I liked this weekend, Tuesday, still having some energy left over. I'm still proud of our record against the NTDP this year.
8-2 so far with 2 games left.
Both against the U17.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's huge. Yeah. So yeah, that's about all I had to like this weekend. So yeah.
As far as what I didn't like, and I've already kind of mentioned this before, just the identical first periods on Friday and Saturday. You know, the Phantoms go down early, they come back and tie the game, and then give up 2 late goals in the last minute and a half of the period. Especially the last goal of each of those first periods, one coming with 4 seconds left, one coming with 5 seconds left. And it was just kind of both times Cedar Rapids and Dubuque were playing to the buzzer, and it just Youngstown just kind of started slowing down, and they got burned both times for it.
Yeah, and one of those times they had been burned, about a minute before?
Yeah.
So, yeah, what I didn't like, we got owned by Dubuque.
Yeah.
If I'm going to brag about us owning USA, then I guess I have to be fair, and we got owned by Dubuque this year.
Yeah. Let me take a look here. Yeah, the Phantoms finished 0-4, 1-1 against Dubuque, only got 2 out of a possible 12 points. Yeah, they were outscored 15-25. Power play was only 2 for 26, 7.7% power play against Dubuque. Yeah, just...
the spreadsheet doesn't lie.
Some people want to see the Phantoms go up to 4th place or go up to 3rd place past Muskegon at this point, seeing if the Phantoms were in 3rd place, their potential second round matchup would be Dubuque. So I think right now I'd like our chances better with Chicago than I would with Dubuque. So at this point, I'm happy staying in 4th.
So, yeah. Yeah.
So my favorite moment from the weekend, these are the 2 times of the year you really get to see it. The beginning of the season and then coming down to the end with affiliates coming up and everything else is just seeing these players' reactions when they pick up their first USHL goal. That was, of course, Braden Clark. And it's just, it's always the trick getting that first one out of the way. And Braden has been with the team for a little while now. To see him get that goal, to see him celebrate that goal and just get that weight off of his shoulders, seeing the way the rest of the team reacted to him getting that goal. It's just one of my favorite things during the season. And this is the time of year, other than the beginning of the year, when you get to see these kind of things.
Yeah, he's got his, he's had his appearances. So he's been working hard, finally got rewarded. My favorite moment of the week, obviously, Trey Taylor, setting that record. Just watching him come in this year, and, we didn't really know what Trey Taylor was going to do, and watching him develop has been just really incredible.
All right, and that will bleed right into the Dump and Chase podcast, 3 stars of the week, and kicking it off, 3rd star of the week is Trey Taylor. He picked up the assist on Tuesday that tied him, that got him to 40 points, that tied him for the Phantoms record. So picking up that assist on Saturday gives him 41. He's now the guy at the top of the list as far as single season scoring for defensemen. We've got to get to know Trey behind the scenes. We've seen what he does on the ice. There aren't many kids I would say is more deserving than he is this year.
No, and I mean, he set that record and counting.
Yeah, still got a little ways to go here.
Yeah, 2nd star of the week, Kyle Bettens. A goal, 2 assists, just generally causing havoc in front of the net, driving. What more can you say?
Yeah, and then going into the 1st star of the week, that is going to Tiernan Shouty. Between the 3 games, 2 goals and an assist. Seemed like he had a little extra pep in his step with the game on Friday with Cedar Rapids. Even a couple points, you even saw him and his brother pushing and shoving here and there. Never quite got to the full Keith and Wayne Primo level. I'm going to make a point before the season's over, if I get a chance to talk to Tiernan, ask him how he feel his parents would react if the 2 of them drop the gloves during a game, how he think his parents would react. But not a ton of high points over the weekend. Tiernan Shouty definitely was one of the high points. So for him, that we're giving him 1st star of the week.
Yeah, and I mean, he does a lot of the little things too. Face-offs. He is incredible on face-offs, and that was something that I was looking forward to. Trying to get something in trades, and glad to see we're there.
You may owe Deskins a thank you. Jason, Phantoms general manager Jason Deskins, a thank you on this.
Yeah, definitely.
Him and Ryan Kosecki, because this is one of the things you talked about a lot, was having a good face-off guy, and we've definitely got that in Tiernan. So to change things up again, we're going to do a shortened version of the weekend preview here. So this coming weekend, the Phantoms have 2 games with the Chicago Steel, both at the Cavelli Center. This season, Youngstown is 3-3 against Chicago. In the 3 games the Phantoms have won, Chicago has only scored 2 goals. In the 3 games the Phantoms have lost, Chicago has scored 20. So...
You almost said that without laughing.
When you hear the phrase, it really depends on what team shows up to play Chicago this weekend, this may be the truest that phrase has ever been since we've uttered it on this show. Yeah, so the game on Friday night, that is season ticket holder appreciation night. The puck drop there at 7:05 p.m. And the game on Saturday, also a 7:05 puck drop. That is Billet Family's appreciation night, but we're going to get into all that here in a little bit. Both these games will be available on Hockey TV, and the audio will be streamed on Western Reserve Radio with voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipsack, at the mic. So for ticket information, call the Phantoms box office at 330-747-PUCK or 330-747-7825, or you can visit youngstownphantoms.com. So we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll preview the weekend further with Phantoms Senior Vice President Kelsey Moreton. That is coming up next on Western Reserve Radio.
The Dump and Chase podcast is the unofficial fan podcast of the Youngstown Phantoms, but it's not always about hockey.
Have you ever played golf?
No, you should see me on the driving range. It's scary.
I haven't played in a few years, but I think the last time I played, I shot like an 83.
On 9 or 18?
On 9.
Still not bad compared to me.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been 80, but the windmill kept getting in the way.
The Dump and Chase podcast, every Wednesday at 5:06 on Western Reserve Radio.
And we're back. So at the end of last week, we got to sit down with the Phantom Senior Vice President, Kelsey Moreton. Now, this interview ended up going for right around 30 minutes because it's the greatest lie we ever tell people is like, oh, it'll just be about 10 minutes or so. Has yet to work out that way ever. And as much as we wanted to play all of it on the show, what you're going to hear is a condensed version. This episode releases on Wednesday, so on Thursday, I will be releasing the full interview on Google, Apple, Spotify, etc. Maybe YouTube. We really haven't talked about that yet, but I guess I'll just throw that out there now.
We'll figure something out, maybe.
Also, Justin was a part of this interview. You just won't hear him until the end of the shortened version, but I promise you he was there for the full thing. So without further ado, here was that conversation. So we're down to the final couple weeks of the season, and who better to fill us in than Phantom Senior Vice President and Youngstown lifer, Kelsey Moreton. So Kelsey, welcome to the Dump and Chase podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited.
We were talking right before we started this. You had said your first day working for the Phantoms was at tryout camp. And I know this seems like forever ago now. I don't know if you remember when you and me were introduced to each other, we were wearing the same T-shirts.
Probably, yeah. Not surprised.
Which wasn't embarrassing. We were both wearing the same heels, too. That really... And honestly, I think that was more embarrassing for you than it was for me, that you had my taste in heels. But other than that, but...
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I have been twinning with people for the last week and a half. It's kind of embarrassing. Like when we did our Steelhounds Day and we had all the Steelhounds apparel, I wore my one Steelhounds shirt. It's the Navy shirt that we had. And I wore it out and I had to go pick up snacks for the boys for that weekend. And usually when I do my snack run for the boys, I usually take our equipment manager, Evan Watts. And of course, that day, like I had Jacob Fowler, I talked to him for a second and he's like, oh, I really like that shirt. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And then Watsy walks over and he's got the same shirt on. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. I gotta go to the Sam's Club with you. So then like a couple of days later, I'm sitting there. It was Tuesday's game. And one of our guys that helps with the facilities and the ice rink itself, his name is Potter. We always call him Potter. And he came over and we had on the same black, like American flag, logoed shirt that was from a couple years back. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I'm really like, I'm twinning with you now too. Like, why, like, what's going on? So I wouldn't be surprised if we wore the same type of heels. So, it's good.
Probably this is the most normal season. Well, not probably. It has been the most normal season we've had since the pandemic started. And the biggest challenge is getting fans to come back to the Kelsey Center. I imagine you guys set goals at the beginning of the season. How do you feel it's gone as the season, as we've reached this point in the season?
So I know that we, last week, we actually exceeded our ticket revenue goal. We had 3 games that we were trying to schedule in December that we had to move to Dubuque. And with that change, because we had Disney on Ice in our building, with that change, we had to reevaluate our ticket revenue goal. But we did exceed it, like I said, with 4 games left, which I'm kind of, super proud of my team because they really hustled. They really got groups in the building. That's another thing, people could sit next to each other and not have to sit in pods with 2 feet apart and things like that. They don't have to wear masks all the time, which has been super helpful, but really proud of the team that, they exceeded that ticket revenue goal. And then, like I said, just trying to build up, a little bit more momentum for the rest of the season has been crucial.
Yeah, 4 games left in the season. 3 of them will be taking place at the Kelsey Center, and each game is going to be a different appreciation night. So we'll start with the Friday game with Chicago. That is season ticket holder appreciation night. So what do us season ticket holders have to look forward to feel appreciated?
Well, I'm just going to start by saying we did want to thank you guys. Number one, honestly, we couldn't have had the season that we've had without the support from our season ticket holders. So that night on Friday, it's really just to say thank you in a way that I don't think season ticket holders have had in the last couple of seasons, just due to COVID, due to a couple other things and so forth. So really that night, you're going to be looking at a lot of different messaging on our nice little Jumbotron. You're also going to be getting a lot more timeout recognitions. You're going to get a lot more intermission recognition points and so forth. During I think the first intermission, we're going to try to have some sort of season ticket shootout. If not that, then maybe a cornhole tournament, just so that you guys can actually win nicer prizes for the upcoming season. Prizes are to be determined, but we are getting there. And then after the game, we're really looking at having your season ticket holders that spent a decent amount of money to come see these players. We really want to have you give you the option really to get a nice picture with our players, with some of the players that you would want to get pictures with. So hopefully we'll get some of those pictures done and printed and given to you guys as well, as a token of our appreciation to you guys coming out and supporting us. So like I said, a little different, but definitely something that we're looking forward to. And then we hope that you guys are going to look forward to it as well. Any ideas? Like I said, if you guys got ideas, you just come to me and let me know, because I would love to hear them, especially with this being the majority of us, our first season. But like I said, we really just wanted to say thank you. And just show the support that you've given us all season, and just give it back to you guys in some way, shape, and form. So.
Okay, so the Saturday night is Billet Appreciation Night. Now, while this is a group of families that are wholly appreciated throughout the season, what will they have to look forward to that night?
So our Billet Appreciation Night is a little different than years past. So we're actually going to kick it off with basically a billet Q&A session for some of those either season ticket holders or just annual fans that just come in regularly. We're holding a nice little informational session an hour before the game. It's at 5:00. If you come to that session, you get two tickets to that game that evening. And we actually have a panel of billets and then also a player parent that's going to sit there as well, that we will go over what it's like to billet a player. And then once that's done, there's going to be, if you have any other questions or, comments and things like that you would want answered, we'd have that panel of billets and then also that player parent as well, answering questions as what it's like living with, hockey players and things like that. So that's going to kick off at 5. And if anybody wants more information on that, they just need to RSVP to me. And then, like I said, we'll get you on that schedule. So that's at 5. And then we just got clearance from Chicago. We play Chicago that night, and we had to get a delay of start for the game. And with that delay of start, we are going to be honoring our current billets. and then also player parents as well. Because we have a lot of players and their parents that come in on a weekly basis just to see them at our home games, because they're in close proximity, I think, a little bit more to like our rink, and it's not that far of a drive for some of them. So with that, at the beginning of that, we're going to have all of our billets line up. They're going to have the players come over with a nice little bouquet of flowers and so forth to give to the billets. They'd get recognized there. And then your player parents would also get a nice photo there as well, with their son during the or before the game. And then during the game, I know that our marketing team and our game ops team just has a little bit more photos that I think not a lot of people have seen. It's a lot of photos that or videos that we've had interactions with, like at home. I know one of the ones that I've given might not be used, but we housed TJ Schweigart, and my 4-year-old and him were like literally dancing in the middle of our kitchen. So it's just like a different, like, you don't see that side of TJ Schweigart. You see the guy that like defends the puck. Like here he is dancing with the 4-year-old. So it's like, I think you get to see a different side of the players with us sharing either those photos or those little moments and stuff like that. So you'll see a little bit more connection between those billets within those little moments and timeouts and so forth throughout the game. And then I'm going to say that will take care of everything on billet appreciation night. And then, like I said, you'll see during timeouts and things like that, the different photos, or you might like have one of our current billets get interviewed by Bobby J, just sitting there like asking, what it's like to live with so-and-so, or like, what's his favorite food? Like just getting a little bit more insight as to, what it's like with the player. So that's what you're going to see a little bit more on Saturday. And just to show our fans what the billets do really behind the scenes to support the player on the ice.
All right, and rounding this out, next Saturday night, it's not only the final regular season game, but also fan appreciation night. Now, I've heard some rumblings from various people that a lot of big things are planned. Without giving away the entire farm, I don't think you'd want to do that, but is there anything you can give us an early preview of?
Well, you tell me what the rumblings are, because I want to know. Can you give me the rumblings first?
Well, you're one of the ones I've heard the rumblings from.
Oh, come on. Okay. All right. So Well, I know for a fact that we have a lot of really good partners and sponsors throughout the season. One of them being Dunkin'. We have Quaker Steak and Lube. We've got a lot of Rise Pies is another one. We've got a lot of different like food places that have really kind of stepped up. And instead of doing like row of the game, it might be section of the game or things of that nature. And then I know for a fact that, those are your timeouts, those are your games and things like that. But I think at the very end, we need to have a team autograph session. So we're going to have the entire team at the end of the game sit out at a couple of tables and sign autographs. One of the things that we did differently this year is we had a couple of sessions in which we had some of the guys sit down and like actually sign some of their photos. So I think we're going to have all those photos laid out again, have them sign, the photos, or if you want a mini stick signed or something like that, we'd have all the guys out there on that night just to say thanks to all of our fans and so forth.
All right, so we have been speaking to Phantom Senior Vice President Kelsey Moreton. Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on the show, chatting with us. Hopefully sometime here in the future we'll come up with no excuse at all to get you back on here again.
Well, we could talk about team shop. We could talk about apparel. Maybe we can match. I don't know. We'll see. It might be Justin's turn to match me, not you. Sorry.
I was gonna. Do we need to have like emails coordinating wardrobe before games and stuff like?
Yes, we probably should.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kelsey, thank you very much for coming on.
Hey, anytime, guys. Thank you.
So a big thank you to Kelsey Moreton, and I will say again that the full interview will be available on Thursday, wherever you pretty much listen to this show. So with that, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this episode and look ahead to the final week of the regular season for the Phantoms. You are listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge. Oh, shit, I didn't want that one. Wrong one. I think I did that last week,
Fix it in post. Fix it in post.
And that will do it for this episode. Be sure to tune in next week where we will recap this weekend and look ahead to the final week of the regular season, a home and home with the NTDP U18 squad. So Justin, 2 games with Chicago, a chance to go 500 or better against the Steel this season. What's the biggest key to victory this week?
I mean, I think we've mentioned it before. Whichever team shows up. I like our chances if we show up. If, B squad slow skating to start the game shows up, then we're going to get our butts kicked.
All right. So again, we want to thank the official sponsors of the Dump and Chase podcast, the fine physicians and staff at Advanced Podiatry. For information about treatments and services offered, locations, and appointment information, check out advancedpodiatry.com. And as always, the Dump and Chase podcast is brought to you by hockeyfan.com. You can hear the show every Wednesday at 5:06 on Western Reserve Radio, either on westernreserveradio.com, through the TuneIn or Live 365 app, the Western Reserve Facebook and Twitter pages, and the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. All of the episodes from this season, plus the bonus episodes, can be found on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and every other podcast service at this point. All 70-plus episodes we have done, plus game highlights and goofy stuff in general, can be found on our YouTube channel. Now, all of these places can be found on our Linktree page, the link to which can be found in the description of however you are listening to this episode. Now, you can find Justin on Facebook at facebook.com/YTHockeyFan and on Twitter at YTHockeyFan. Both of those are PHAN. And you can find me on Twitter at dump_chasepod. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in this week. For Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. We'll talk with you all next week right here on the Dump and Chase podcast. Bye now.